Actually, the interweb and my limited tech skills. If I'm being serious. Some people go, "You're so good at this tech stuff," and then I kind of go, "Are you kidding or what?" But then it really depends on who you're comparing yourself to, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. If you can turn the thing on, you're in front of a lot.
Yeah, well, that's right. So certainly not a tech rock star, but relative to.
What could I do? I could drop that. If I drop that, I think if you push that screen back, you'll probably find it not too bad. I reckon you just look at it on an angle.
Could well be, mate. Could well be.
Exposure's not terrible.
All right, 7:30. We're just about there, ready to rock and roll, lock and load, locked and loaded.
Become dead.
It's not going to make me any prettier, so I don't think it matters too much, mate.
And that can come up. I reckon that's all right.
I reckon it's all right. Good to go. Good to go. Right, yeah.
We're in.
I think we're in. We're a minute in. We're 7:30 on the dot. 7:31 according to your computer. The timing's out. Goodness me. Time to panic. What do we do? However will we cope? Yes, that's right. Time to synchronise the universe for sure.
Someone will be trying to do that as we speak.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. You're just about ready to go there, counsellor?
Yeah, mate.
Right, let's do it.
Okay, welcome everyone to now. We've got episode 9 on today's promo.
We have,
but I think Holeless Bowlers we're up to about episode. That must make it about 35.
Oh yeah, for sure. If we're going across the span of 2 seasons now, or the second season,
I'd prefer to go to that naming.
Naming the episode 34, you reckon?
34 or 5, whatever that.
We'll have to go back and do some maths then.
Yeah. We'll find out where we got up to at the end of last year and just add whatever we've got.
We can do that. We can rejig the numbers. So it shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to do.
It's going to be helpful because I've had people asking me certain things that we've discussed at great length. And I can just say, go back to episode
35 or 25 or what. Yeah, we can do that.
And they all sit there on the web. So people, and then it becomes a valuable resource for community education.
I'm all about community education.
Yeah, so that they can get both sides of the story.
It's very important.
That's what we specialise in. Actually, we've got a few things where I've found some more information about both sides of the story.
Oh, that's excellent.
Anyway.
Well, I guess we better start because we just sort of started waffling on here because I've got here about literally 4 minutes ago.
Episode 35-ish of Deep Spin Doctor. My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council, but none of the views I express here are those of Temora Shire Council. They're mine and mine alone.
And I'm Dean McRae. I answer to nobody whatsoever, other than obviously the people who sort of ask me questions. And when I get questions, I like to answer them as honestly and openly and directly as I possibly can, good, bad, or ugly. But I'm certainly not owned by anybody. About as close to actually free media as you can get these days, really, isn't it?
We're certainly cheap anyway.
We're certainly cheap. We don't charge cheap as best value entertainment and information in certainly the district at the moment. But thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. I'm watching the numbers go up. I think last week's episode's up around that 600-700 views between Facebook and YouTube. And I think a heap of the reels that I've worked out the new technology. I'm learning this stuff. So we've been able to put up a heap of YouTube reels and things overnight. And some of those are already up over 100 views. So that's interesting.
Yes. And if they're in bite-sized pieces, because I know some people have said to me,
too long. Who's got an hour and a half? Yeah. Except the only way we've got time to really do it is we haven't got time every time there's a little topic to touch. Come down here and record an episode. So we've just dedicated this hour and a half every Thursday night to truth, justice, and the Australian way, as far as I'm concerned, in lieu of what was previously a show down at Pterodactyl FM that went for sort of 2 hours with music. Now we've removed the music and we just do effectively what's a talk show podcast.
Yeah, and we well, for anyone who's not fully aware, basically, Dean was doing a radio show on in a community radio station, volunteering his time, and he'd been doing it for 18 months, and he got an ultimatum from the directorship of said establishment, and they said he wasn't allowed to have me on as a guest. Now I'm an elected representative of Temora Shire Council,
and I wasn't allowed to talk about local issues on
you weren't
local
allowed-
radio.
Yeah, so there were two things. So I wasn't allowed to appear on a community radio
station as a local representative of council,
and discuss matters that interested certainly some of the community.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was interesting some of the community, to the point that some of the community obviously
would like to know.
Persuaded the the management of TEM FM to
look, I was gently directed to speak about, I don't know, the local scon club. That was allowed. That was fine. Which look, I guess the funniest part about it all was when they first asked me to go on there. They got really upset because I was talking about a lot of international, national, and state issues. Oh, this is local radio. You need to talk about local stuff. Then when I started talking about local stuff, then they did shit bricks. You know, oh no, we can't talk about that.
No,
yeah,
no. You can only talk about the.
We're going to give you an approved list of crap you're allowed to touch on.
Yeah,
and it must be our approved list.
All of it has been vetted, and it's got to be sort of basically gone through the propaganda process, whereby it's pre-prepared, proofread, and provided by
poorly proofread, I might add, but proofread nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah, provided by the powers that be, or like to think that they be. So, unfortunately, the response they got was not the one that they. I'm sure surely instinctively they knew exactly how I was going to react, and
I think they got.
And if I didn't react that way, I would have absolutely had to throw myself on a sword and say I'm not the guy I say I am.
Sigmund Freud would have been able to psychoanalyze that prior to and say,
anybody who has spent 10 minutes watching, listening, or talking to me ever should have known full well that the minute somebody put a gun like that to my head, what the response was going to be. The secondary portion of that response was the bit that I don't think they were anticipating, and that was the formation of this program, and for it to obviously continue in this format for as long as I have.
They didn't expect us to be basically going to the world. We didn't break stride. You were punted on the Thursday. This show started the following
Thursday. We were up live and running.
There wasn't even one Thursday gap.
Well, there was one Thursday gap. It was the gap that I didn't get to perform because that was the I had the pensioner army. Dad's army was in there snarling and growling and demanding the key to the building because
probably releasing copious amounts of old person smell.
Oh, it was delightful. The mothballs were, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. But all jokes aside, it was one. I was invited to do it originally. I was requested, I guess, to be fair. The only thing when I started doing that I agreed to as a stipulation would I do my very best not to use bad language. And I must admit, we're a little bit freer on here as far as on occasion we do swear more than we should. And we don't go too crazy, but on occasion when we're cranky, it just is what it is.
I don't think there's a law against it.
No, I thought that was a reasonable request to say,
on
please.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm happy enough to say, I think there are a couple of occasions where it's, but then overall, I think you'd be hard pressed to find too many. I had a couple of guests on there that I had to warn mid-show.
Yes.
Because let's be fair, that show had former Premier of Queensland, Campbell Newman made an appearance. Mark Latham made an appearance. Yeah. We had a Sheila who used to be on Neighbours, made an appearance. It was quite an abundant list of unique individuals that came on a little 2-bit radio station out here in the middle of nowhere at my request.
But you had the temerity, you had the absolute gall to talk about local issues.
I did. Well, and it wasn't so much I had the gall to talk about them, but I also had the gall to allow both sides of the story to be presented. The other side of the story that usually has its way with information didn't want to come on.
No.
They were offered,
but
the offer was there. Week in, week out. Anybody who'd like
the only caveat was you were going to ask them some hard questions.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to back down on.
So if you come into the studio,
you come in, you're going to get asked the same questions that I'm going to ask you. Did this happen?
Yes.
And what was your role in it? Yes. And if you answer me with bullshit, you're going to be out on your bum.
Well, you'll be called out for at the very least in front of the community.
Absolutely.
Which is enough for most of them. And I think they would have had to have 2 warm cups of milk that.
Look, I've come to the realization after many, many years that I'm not everybody's flavour of tequila. I get that. I'm fairly comfortable with it.
Yes.
But I can still struggle to find anybody who's going to go, he's not doing his best to be as clear, as honest, as direct, as forthright as humanly possible, good, bad, or ugly. And I don't think I can be called a hypocrite by anybody much. I'm just trying to think, like where.
There's few people can claim that. Very few people can claim that. It's something to be proud of. And
pros and cons, I think they're sort of some of my, I guess, strengths. And, whether you like me or not, you know that at the very least, I'm doing my very best to present both sides of the story if they're there.
Again, we throw out the welcome to anybody who's got a counter argument, who wants to get their opinion across. Come and we will pull a chair up. We've got a flexible studio arrangement.
I can spin the camera around. We can do anything like that we want.
Stuff.
And the other, and if maybe you don't want to talk to me, but you want to come in here and debate Councillor Irvine online, I'll sit out for the night. Won't worry me in the slightest, or vice versa, or the other way around. Maybe if one of the other councillors was a bit uncomfortable having a conversation with you in this format, I'll come to your house.
Yes.
I'll come to your house.
Mobile. We've got
the technology.
Production facility.
We got a laptop, a camera, a mobile phone. We're good. We can make this happen anywhere. So if you're brave enough, feel free to put your hand up. I'm more than happy to run a program. Anyway, what's been going on, mate?
Already, we're talking about the propaganda and the way stuff gets spun. Now, I actually like Steph Cook. I think she does a good job, and I think she really tries.
Yeah, sure.
She's helped me out at different times with different matters.
Yep.
And I think she's pretty genuine. But you do remember last week and the weeks before in the local rag where they were basically pumping up this great travesty where the nasty state government were picking on Temora, and they were coming to take our lake, and they were going to turn into a wetland and blah, blah, blah.
Yes. There'll be no more skiing on the lake.
And we had the photo of Steph and Rick there in matching Akubras, and they were going to fight tooth and nail to have that overturned. Now, of course, the decision did come through, but just travelling around the interweb this week, I came across another article, and apparently the same issue has happened
Helen, how are you,
all over the state. So I'm just wondering.
Helen's a little bit socialist for my liking, but she does have some things that I do like her on.
But when you listen to this, member for Murray Helen Dalton believes regional New South Wales has secured an environmental win following New South Wales government's announcement it will be rolling back its decision to declare sections of the Murray-Darling Basin as wetlands. So Lachlan Catchment Management, or Lachlan Catchment, which encompassed the Temora Lake, it appears that Helen was onto a bit bigger scale Murray-Darling thing, and this is only just one part of it that seemed to get cherry-picked and beat up into a bit of a major issue.
Things. We're about to scare the good people.
It never got any coverage on the front of the Sydney papers. I haven't had a look at the Melbourne ones, the problems at Temora, and I don't think it rated internationally. However, Helen's got, on this Region Riverina news item, there's talk here about this wasn't just Temora, and it wasn't just Temora Lake, and it wasn't Rick and Steph fighting them single-handedly. Apparently, the Department of Climate Change, Energy and the Environment and Water.
And if ever there's an organisation that should be defunded, declassified, and everybody that works for it, unemployed, so that sounds like a department that should be right at the top of the useless department list.
As well as Lake Centenary, there were other equally significant water
courses like the Murray-Darling Basin. Murray-Darling's
the Guida system, the Namoy Peel system, the Macquarie Womble Bogan system, the Lachlan system, which was the one that affected us.
The
Murrumbidgee and the Barwon Darling.
Which none of them compare to Lake Centenary, let's be fair.
Yeah, so the huge community opposition that was forthcoming was forthcoming from the whole of the state.
The whole state just said
including Rick Furman and Steph Cook.
Yeah.
So,
and I during the state elections, You know, a few people asked me to run. Now, if Steph wasn't Steph, and that's not because she's just a Temora girl. If she was a Temora girl that I thought wasn't trying really hard and didn't provide some value, I would have quite comfortably thrown my hat in that ring just to stir that pot as well. I think Steph is genuinely trying to do a good job in there.
There's no doubt.
I don't, you know, I mean, we all know the family, blah, 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 blah.
But
But
on the record, I've just said tonight that there's been particular issues that I've reached out to Steph, and she has intervened on my behalf personally, outside of council, as an individual, as a
Are you an individual?
As a constituent.
Yeah.
So,
no, look, I think Steph's she doesn't wield the power that a lot of people like to think she has.
I think it was like less than 10 business days, and I had a letter from a high-ranking New South Wales government official.
Yeah.
Saying, we're really sorry, we've overlooked this, we dropped the ball, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Now, if Steph hadn't have intervened on my behalf,
you'd still be chasing her around.
Still be right. So, like I say,
I mean, look,
this isn't a piss take on Steph. It's just an example of this big beat up that we can only describe it as a beat up by the Temora Independent. There's no context given in any of the articles by the Temora Independent as to the wider
national or statewide issue.
As to the wider implications and the fact that not only was it being fought by two individuals in Temora, it was being fought by about the rest of
New South Wales. Yeah, that's right.
When you start listening to the rhetoric that comes out of these government departments, you do have to get a bath bag, a vomit bag, and just be careful you haven't eaten a great big pizza and 6 stubbies. Washed it down with 6 stubbies recently.
I struggle to chug on any of the shit that comes out of any government department.
This has come out from New South Wales Executive Director of Water Planning, Giselle Howard, said the result of the consultation perfectly demonstrated why it was important to reach out to the community. So they put forward a really poorly thought out plan that isn't organised in any way and they've done no work on. And basically they get everyone else in the community to say, this is stupid because, and all of a sudden all their work's done because they've got all of the responses that they can. Now,
all of the arguments as to why this is a stupid idea.
If you want proof of that, then you need to listen to this next little passage. This is a great example of how much we value community feedback because we got bashed and we're very sore. And how crucial it is in helping us get our water sharing plans right. While we recognise that some of the data that we used for the original wetlands maps had not been subjected to rigorous ground truthing. Now, is rigorous ground truthing another word for getting in your car and actually looking at what you're putting on a map? Is it actually gathering some photos and saying...
We haven't left the office, but we've put forward all these programs for a heap of areas that we know nothing about.
We should have a department of ground truthing.
Yes. Look.
The feedback we received over the extended consultation period was invaluable in highlighting the nature and scale of potential impacts that this may cause to landholders.
The best part was we didn't have to leave the office, which is air conditioned, and we still get our 90 grand a year to be useless. Look, depending on which scale of Muppet this one is.
I'm tipping it's
higher.
Well north of
I know our MLCs get about 180, so
we're talking about public servants
here.
They're in a whole different stratosphere.
They are,
As a result, we were able to fast track changes to wetland maps and are now going back out to the community 4 weeks after the initial consultation closed, give everyone another chance to have their say, just in case we didn't ground truth it enough. Miss Dalton notified residents about the government's plans and then created a social media campaign to stop the declaration. So whilst the Temora Independent were running their campaign, Helen Dalton was running a similar campaign, and I'm tipping every politician in worth their salt
regional areas would have been absolutely doing
regional New South Wales would have been doing exactly the same.
And water is a Helen Dalton strength. That's always been one of her strengths in Parliament when she was with the shooters, fishers and farmers and so on and so forth. Now she's an independent. And I quite like her. I think as a woman she's quite intelligent. I think she's relatively principled. I don't agree with all of her policies, but I think she's been a bit of a champion of, water management and that sort of.
Well, that's
space.
That's her wheelhouse from where her base is.
It's where her business comes from. It's
but
where
even, but that's where
life comes from.
they're the people she represents.
Absolutely.
That's the driver. Irrigation water is the driver for the economic
success of her
future of
her electorate,
of the people she represents.
Absolutely.
So,
I've only had a few dealings with her, and in them, I've always found her to be pretty good.
I'd say she'd be pretty forthright.
She seems very forthright, yes.
So
she was a little concerned that I demanded too much freedom for citizens.
Goodness gracious!
Apparently, there have to be some impositions by government.
Slightly communist.
She's got little commie leanings there. Which they all have. My rule's pretty simple: do no harm, but take no shit. Don't affect other people, and I really don't care what you do or what you're into.
Yeah.
What else is in the in Pete's propaganda magazine for the week?
Much. It's all pretty it's all pretty just local newsletter stuff.
Local newsletter.
Yeah, they had the there's not there's nothing else that I can actually look at here and say that I can find that is
overly interesting and or controversial.
Well, blatant propaganda.
Well, that's nice. That's a nice change.
It is. So most of this stuff is probably what a local paper should be concentrating on, which is just local news and events.
Somebody had a concert.
And nothing other than that I can really see.
I did notice that the Temora Bugle's looking for a cadet journalist. I might apply.
Yeah, well, I told you Camillo's heading up to Tumut.
Camillo's escaping. I reckon I could make as many spelling mistakes as these guys for sure.
So that's probably the paper for this week.
Right, what's been going on in council land? Anything exciting?
Well, would you believe there has been a couple of things?
A couple of developments. So that's always good. What's been happening?
I just want to put into context one thing. When you start talking about this wetland and this declaration and all this BS, and the whole idea of what a council will consider important and what they won't consider important, the way that information's put to us and how we're used, I believe at times councillors are used as a human shield for bureaucrats to hide behind when they get a hot potato that they don't want to deal with.
For sure.
There's a couple of issues in the upcoming council papers so we had Assets and Operations Committee meeting on Tuesday.
Right.
Would you believe that a big operator has asked for a standardisation of a permit process so that road trains can access the grain receival sites around Temora?
Right.
Now, one thing that does my head in, this request came from the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator.
Right.
Now, the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator are renowned for being so over the top with regulation and compliance.
That's what they do, yeah.
If someone's got one entry wrong in their logbook, they just throw the book at them. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
There's any little defect on your truck, they throw the book at you. They're so over the top with safety and compliance. If you're 5 minutes over when you should be having a break, they'll throw the book at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm telling anyone if you talk to a truck driver, you've got no idea. It's almost as though a truck driver is a criminal and they're just waiting for them to slip up.
Well, that's all citizens of Australia.
It just seems to be.
They're breathing down your neck the minute you're on the road. You're watching your ass.
Because you're a professional driver, they believe that they can charge you professional rates with all the fees and charges.
Of course.
And that they own you. And it's a privilege that you can run your business and not a right.
Oh,
so the point I'm trying to get to is probably this. They wanted to confirm that the road train routes into Temora, and there's a road train route that's classified at the northern edge of town, and there was another one at the southern edge of town that they wanted classified.
Right.
And the southern edge of town one managed to get trucks from the main road down to Grain Corp.
Yep.
And it uses a fairly common sense route that doesn't appear to me to be silly or unsafe or
Right.
so they just want to go down past the cemetery, down, I think it's called Murphy Street now.
Murphy Street used to be Ashleford Street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
down Cootamundra Road.
Yep.
And straight down to the sub terminal. Now I'll bring it up on a map here. So
they head along Murphy Street onto Ashleford Street, out Old Cootamundra Road, and then up to the sub. That makes sense.
Yeah, so the sub's down here. So they're taking this route along here, and it comes up there,
past the soccer field,
past the soccer ground, and back onto Vesper Street.
Yep.
Which is, and just back up here is the state road.
Yep.
So it's not a big. So that's road trains will be able to access this, and they don't have to keep coming to Temora Shire Council for one specific permit. They can just apply for access, and then they don't.
And then they're done. Yeah, right.
Now, the one that gives me the most concern is the northern option, and we were asked to vote on this, and I basically voted against it.
Right.
And I said, I can't in good conscience support this route.
Right.
We've got the heaviest and longest and most unwieldy classification of truck transport here, road trains.
Right, yeah.
So they're the longest, they're the heaviest, multiple trailers.
Yeah.
So the northern access point comes in from the north through the Enterprise Corridor.
Yep.
Comes in past Ag and Vet.
Yep.
Davidge Transport. Hutchin and Pearce on that side, and Cleverton's are on the corner.
Sure.
Then the operator has to make a turn which is more than 90 degrees.
Yeah, right.
It's about, looking at that, it's probably a 110-degree turn.
Yep.
With a vehicle that's the heaviest, with the most amount of wheels and trailers.
Yeah.
Then they travel up Kitchener Road. They take a slight dogleg to make this corner even more acute.
Yeah, right.
And then they have to turn back way more than 90 degrees.
Yeah. Can't see any jackknife. To
get back onto Lucas Street here.
Yeah.
Right. And then they follow Lucas Street around. And they get to the level crossing here where the rail line goes through. That rail line goes down to Grain Corp at Barellan and down to Altora Ag siding. And it's not a super busy rail line, but it certainly gets enough rail traffic. So we've got a situation here. We've got an unboom gated rail crossing here. So it's a stop sign.
Yes.
So these operators have to make these series of really tight turns, and they have to crank the thing up, all the way through the gears, get the thing rolling. They come back up here, and they've got to come to a complete dead stop at that intersection.
Yeah.
Look both ways, and then determine that it's safe to move on and cross the crossing. So you've got trains and the longest road and the heaviest road combination interacting here at an unboom gated rail crossing.
Yeah.
Then they come down Twynham Street. This should be a touchscreen, shouldn't it? If I had bought one off someone.
Yeah. Well, sort your life out, will you?
Yes. Then they come up, and now it doesn't show it on the map here for anyone who's watching, but the grade actually, this is slightly uphill.
Yeah.
So if they've got to stop here, they have to bring the road train to a complete stop.
Yep.
And then they turn right onto Polaris Street, like a 90-degree right-hand turn. Then they have to turn left 90 degrees and up a pretty reasonable grade over the top of the hill where Rural Fire Service and SES are.
Yeah.
To get onto Vesper Street.
Right.
To continue their journey.
Doesn't seem a particular practical route at all.
Well,
is there a better one? Obviously, and I know what you like. No, but you're not going to turn around and go, well, that's a shit idea where they're coming up with something that sort of as an alternative proposal.
Not even that. What I'm saying is this.
Little sponsorship there for the Temora Services Club, little plug.
If you apply the road engineering standards to this route, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Would you believe that a road train going north, so from coming down Kitchener Road to go north,
Yeah.
and a road train coming south to come and go back that way, they can't both be on that corner at the same time.
No, not
because
a chance.
To get your road train around here, he has to actually cross into their lane to get the road train around that.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. So I consider that a pretty serious safety issue.
Would it not
now,
be?
the same thing occurs at the other acute corner. Now, there's a rail crossing here, but it's boom gated.
Yeah.
So I'm not as concerned about the rail crossing here.
Yeah.
But it's got a boom gate on
But would they not be better off just to cut in over the other railway, come in Airport Road?
That's an option, but the biggest problem they've got with that
seems a little more straightforward.
It isn't.
Oh, you come in there, you go straight up over there, and around you go, and you're sort of out of town. You're not.
But if you are coming down the highway, right, and you're in a road train, and you've got to stop.
It's a pain. It's a pain in the butt.
You've got to stop at a stop sign to cross that crossing. Now, if you're in a road train, your trailers are hanging out on the road while you're stopped at the stop sign. Now, can you imagine someone coming along here on a foggy morning in the middle of winter?
Oh, for sure.
And colliding with the back trailer of a road train because he stopped at the Airport Street crossing.
Yeah.
Now,
that's a fair point.
So the only way that they could do that would be to divert the railway line, which they're not going to do because the airport's here.
Yeah.
So the airport dictates that the rail line stays there. The only other alternative is to actually push the road this way to give more clearances.
Yeah.
But that's a major undertaking. That's millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, right.
We're talking about diverting and all of the other consequences of diverting it. And it's a state road.
Yep.
So to get enough clearance to actually stack, and also to the point, if there's one bloke pulled up at that stop sign and you've got to be the next guy to come and make the turn, you've got to stack.
You stack them back this way.
Yeah. So do you have a stacking lane where you can hold while you wait to go across? Like, okay, now consider this. The ideal way to overcome that would be put an overpass or an underpass.
Yeah.
And separate the traffic from the rail line. Well, there's another big constraint here is the height, because you've got flight paths and descent paths onto the runway approaches. So we've got a runway approach there and we've got a runway approach there. Now, even to the point that out at Lake Centenary, they've got a jet boat track, and I'll show you here. Here's the jet boat track at Lake Centenary. They have to have hinged light poles, and they've only got allowances to put the light poles up whilst the event is in place.
Yeah.
While the event's taking place.
Yeah.
Then the hinged light poles lay back down because they interfere with the
flight path,
the heights.
Yeah.
The approach and the departure heights, or the safe regulations in these approaches to the airport. So if they can't have lights up, and I'm talking lights that aren't very high, if you're going to put an overpass in, you're going to have an overpass with lights on top.
Instead of Kitchener Road, why don't you?
Anyway, so they're the constraints
of using that. Okay, so that's what. That kills that idea. Fair enough. All right, so you go a bit further up, and what if you came to? Right, so if you zoom in there a bit, and you're coming down in here, I'm guessing, yeah.
Well, if you go past the Kitchener Road intersection, the only one that's available after that is Polaris Street.
Well, that's what I'm just thinking. Would it not work that they should be able to get around that corner fairly well? Head straight up that way, and
well, this is the one. This is the proposal that formed part of a different proposal I put forward to take heavy vehicles out of Hoskin Street.
Yeah.
And I said, turn them off here at Polaris Street.
Well, that kind of makes more sense. They just come up this way.
Let's look at, if you're a road train, now just bear in mind that single semis and B doubles are allowed to come in and use this corner.
Right, yep.
So the only difference would be a road train is also allowed.
Yep.
At the moment, B doubles and single semis don't use the road train route.
Yeah, okay.
They're lucky that they don't have to take that that really awkward path. So I can't support the proposal as it exists because I believe that it's not safe.
Yeah.
It's not efficient. It's not sensible. There's too many pinch points. There's even to the point that we've got a cycleway that runs along the edge of Lucas Street.
Well, yeah.
We've got a council cycleway that runs along the edge of Lucas Street here. And it's shown there in the map.
Yep.
And yet we've got road trains going along here. So I was the only one who said, I'm voting against that. I can't support that. I can't believe the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator would put forward something like this, but obviously they haven't come to tomorrow and done their ground truthing.
No, ground truthing. Yeah, I love that.
But even to the point that if they applied the Ostroads turning path templates, which are basically the template that every engineer, road designer, person who's doing subdivisions, anyone has to consult these templates to make sure that the roads comply and they're usable,
so that they can actually hold a truck that's going around.
But even in a subdivision where you've got passenger vehicle traffic, it's the designs of roundabouts, it's the designs of car parks, it's the design. So I've got an industrial building in Temora, and I've had some engineering done there, and they've used the Ostroads turning path templates to demonstrate the truck movements through that site. Yeah, okay. So these are widely recognised engineering. What's the term? It's an engineering norm or a standard. Standard. And yet in this particular instance, we've got this. We're being asked to approve this route. That doesn't meet any of those standards. It doesn't meet any of the standards from the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. So I can't support that. I was the only one who actually piped up and said, I can't support that. Everyone else nodded their head and said, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. We've been asked to, we better say yes. Okay, so that was the one point of difference I had. Yep. Now, there was another point of difference. Now, let me think back to what it might have been. Council had an application from a group of a community club that want to build a shed. So the answer is yes. On a block of ground down near where the Pigeon Club have got a shed. Build your shed. In Aurora Street. No. Is it Aurora Street? If you're funding it yourself and you own the land, build the shed. Go for it. Yeah, but look, there's a couple of little tricky ones with this, and the same thing applied. And I hate being we're not going to disagree about something here, are we, Anthony? I thought we just agreed on everything. Isn't that how this works? Aurora Street. It is Aurora Street. The paper says that we agree on everything. No. You're my disciple, remember? Yes, well, that's right. Yeah. No, if you own the land, it's your land. Build the shed. End of my ruling. My ruling is now complete, people. The Pigeon Club. That's the Pigeon Club shed, and it's in this location here. So that location's in Aurora Street, right? Surrounded by residential housing. We've got the town drain, the eastern drain behind that location. Yeah. We've got the stormwater detention basins here. So we're allowed to talk about what eastern drain. Or is that a secret? No. It's not a secret. None of this is a secret because it's not in pink page. Well, yeah. Look, I'm not real good at secrets, so I just figured I'd just ask the question. No. I wouldn't be talking about it. If anybody was under the pump, I wouldn't be talking about it if it comprised. So who's our community group? It's the Antique Motor Club. Yeah, right. But I'll give you an outline of what my concerns might be. So there's been a letter come through from Temora Shire Council. My name is blankety blank. That's been redacted. Oh, right. I am the president of the Temora Antique Motor Club. So why are we redacting the name of the president of the club? Would it have to be on Google or something, surely? Let's let's just do a little Googling and see if this redaction is got any merit. Temora Antique Motor Club on Facebook. I wonder if it says who their president is.
You'd almost have to, wouldn't you? Like,
Well,
come and join our Antique Motor Club.
the
Meet the
group doesn't
president.
allow pages to join. About the group. Meetings. Well, in the Facebook page, it says Les Buckley is the president.
Yeah, right. How are you, Les? I don't think I know Les. If I do know you, Les, and I've, you know, I just haven't got a picture of who you are in your head. I hope you're well, and I hope your little club's success and gets to build its shed. There you go. Look at that.
A little bit of sleuthing, and we've managed to.
I tell you what, I was going to hire a PI, and then I worked out that I'm sitting here with Anthony Irvine, Esquire.
Now, basically, the request is we've been trying to get a shed erected on council land that we have leased behind the Pigeon Club. So apparently, I didn't know that part of it. It's on council land. Okay.
So
we've obtained all the DA approvals and have purchased the building. Our problem is the earthwork that is needed to fill to the level of the highest point.
Right, yep.
I've been told that council may have some gravel that would suit our needs that they removed from the recent roadworks. Could the council allow us to use some to level our site? And if so, can council assist in the loading?
Okay, so it's council land. These guys have obviously funded the shed by the sound of it to the tune of their own money, which I like that.
So it's on council land, and
so my first many questions: is there a heap of leftover dirt from the roadworks that really needs to be relocated? And if so, is there an issue with transporting it to that location?
Well, this is the point that I've got an issue with.
Okay.
If this material could potentially contain any contaminants that aren't conducive to building any sort of building on,
sure,
and potentially leach out into the environment and cause any problems down the track, I don't believe it's worth the risk.
So
to use that material.
So if the sporting club funded a...
So if they... Now, my suggestion was I'd be quite happy for council to consider selling this group ridge gravel that we quarry, which we know is clean.
Right. But obviously...
but I'd be quite happy to sell that at cost.
Yeah.
And then there's a situation there where they've asked for the cartage to be thrown in as a donation to the club. Then I think council could consider the cartage of the ridge gravel. Okay, so that would allay my concerns. The other thing that would allay my concerns is if the material that they have identified,
the waste material,
was tested, and proven to be contaminant free and suitable as a fill material, I would be satisfied.
Okay,
but there'd be a cost to meeting that.
Sure.
Now, council officers made a couple of comments at the meeting that I found a little bit concerning. This material hasn't been segregated in a way that would guarantee separation from other parts of the job. You know, it's all been a job going on, and it's all been dumped, and some of it could get mixed up.
Okay, so if this
now, but listen to him here. I was talking to a guy about something completely unrelated on the weekend, and this is what triggered it. And also, I'll give you another context as well. He said to me that their community club down in Victoria had a very generous approach by someone who offered to lay some reclaimed road materials all over their community site for access roads and the car park area and everything else, and he was just going to do it free of charge for them. And they looked into it, and they found out that in Victoria, the only use that you can repurpose dug up road for is to put back into a road.
Right.
You can't go and lay it in a community facility. You can't go and use it for other purposes.
But why does Victoria have that? Let's be fair, Victoria is a pretty incompetent state.
Think about it. The bitumen contents are hydrocarbons in the material.
Yeah.
Now that can leach out.
Okay, yeah, sure.
You've got asbestos and stuff as a contaminant from the brake drums and the constant use, and if that road's been in position for X amount of time, there's a lot of contaminants that can get into road material that get compacted and into. Every time they rework the road, they
release
mix
some
it
of
up,
that
or they mix it all up and they combine it.
I can see that. Yeah, sure.
So in Victoria, the only purpose that you can actually put that stuff to is to actually put it back into a road, because, okay, it's accepted as being contaminated fill.
Yep.
And if you're putting it into a situation where it's going to get more contamination, well, no foul.
Yeah.
But to use that in another area where there is no contamination. Now, and we're not saying what level of contamination is in this material we're talking. I'm just saying this is a risk.
Sure.
Because of where it's come from.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just don't think it's a risk worth taking.
Well,
without, number one, making sure that the material in question that is going to be allocated to this job is tested.
Sure.
And proven to be safe. If that's done, I'm happy.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be the first thing I was going to say. Well, go and get it tested. And
yes, but who's going to pick up the tab for the testing? And then all of a sudden, once you work out the cost for the testing, is it just going to be cheaper to buy clean fill and do the job?
Quite possibly. That would be. I would put that onus onto the Temora Antique Motor Club.
The saving?
I would say, from my philosophy, I would say to the Temora Antique Motor Club, if you go and work out what it would cost to get their testing done to ensure all safety, whatever's, if that cost is amenable to you, feel free to pay that fee, cost, charge, whatever, and proceed.
Now, in soil classifications in Australia, this is Australia-wide, this is an Australian standard.
Mm-hmm.
There is a P classification.
Right.
And it's for problem sites. Now,
I can think of a few problem sites, for sure.
I know of an individual over at Coolamanshire. Now, Coolamanshire has been talked about a little bit recently.
We're not allowed to talk about them. They're mess, sir.
Oh, we are. And we will. And
what a douchebag.
There was a situation there where a resident of one of the villages in Coolamanshire had put some fill on their block to level their block, and they hadn't asked permission of Coolamanshire Council. Coolamanshire Council then issued a fine for unauthorised works. And
don't you dare do anything on your own property without our permission, because you only own it. We only let you think you own it.
Yeah, on your property.
Yeah.
This wasn't even this one. See, this is the thing. This Antique Motor Club job, it's a council site. So if we actually make a blue and allow this to occur, we're going to get stuck with the cost of rectification.
Well, then I'm perfectly supportive of that. Get it tested, and so no problem there.
And there's been a couple of big instances that I'll go into in a minute. Anyway, this situation at Ganmain, because this guy didn't have the soil test, they flogged shit out of him.
Mm.
Yet here we are in Temora, 60 k's away, 61 k's from Coolman to Temora.
Yeah.
And we've got council officers saying, oh, no, you can use that fill. We deem it okay. Rules. Can you tell me what the difference is?
Well, I can, yes. There's one lot of corrupt organisation, and I'm not saying all the people are really corrupt, but one corrupt organisation has different rules depending on who they're dealing with,
they can
what
apply,
capacity,
they can
and where it suits.
Yes,
the other corrupt organisation, again, I'm not saying all the individuals within the organisation are corrupt, but these organisations are corrupted by their very existence, will make rules that will suit themselves whenever it suits themselves within the context of the people who are in the room.
But next week, someone will bring some fill in that they
it will be inappropriate. If Anthony Irvine brings in some inappropriate fill, you will get a fine. Yes. And you'll be smacked.
Yeah. So that's.
Whereas this is a different thing, because one, we're getting rid of some waste.
And I'm telling you,
it
was pretty hard going for this individual, and he had to jump through some pretty serious hoops, and he got threatened, and he actually got fined a pretty significant sum of money.
Of course,
in the process. So here we are.
I'm all for tarring and feathering these people.
An LGA, a local council, just at our very border, imposing conditions on landholders that Temora Shire Council aren't imposing on themselves.
Yes, but
now
I oppose their right to do so.
All right, that's beside the point. What I'm saying is, it's got to be consistent.
Well,
That's
no,
inconsistent.
that's why we elect different officials in different areas.
No.
Because
No. These people are bureaucrats applying the rules.
well, that's
So
right.
this is
But the reason
no. They don't get leeway.
the reason though that we have elections, or why it's purported that we actually do get a vote, is because in certain electorates we may have a group of people, a majority of people in a certain electorate, who don't agree with any of this shit, and if that electorate elects officials that believe similarly to them, I fully support their right to go. No, we're doing our own thing. Bugger off. There's a few council areas doing that around the country as we speak.
I know down at Hall's Gap in the Grampians, they've got a blanket no cats rule. You can't own a cat in Hall's Gap.
Fair call.
They're in.
Are you allowed to eat them still? Like,
Oh.
is a Chinese restaurant allowed to produce them, or does the local
No, it's a Chinese
does the
restaurant.
local KFC
They might have
still
had
bang
to
them
shut
out? I don't know. Is it dead cats or no alive cats? Like, what's
no
that?
cats, no alive cats.
Just no cats.
No cats.
That's very tough.
Because
I'm
they
not
live
opposed to
in a pretty beautiful natural
environment. They don't want feral friggin' shit running around killing
all
wildlife.
the bird life and the small
Now,
mammals and
I don't care what pets people choose to have. I really couldn't care less. But if that community as a majority of have
society,
gone, this is the route we're going. Now there'll obviously be one or two outliers who go,
Yeah.
bullshit, I want a cat, and
they'll move.
well, you can either move, you can sell your gear, or you can fight the power. You can do whatever you want to do. But as a community group, I absolutely support them to go, right, whatever you want to go and do.
We're talking about here in this instance. This is applying national, like these soil classifications and this testing stuff is a national thing. So if you want to change it, you've got to change it en masse.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they were doing the Coolac bypass, and that was the Hume Highway duplication, massive project.
Yeah.
They were carving great cuttings out of the sides of hills over in that location. And there was all of this spoil that was basically, hey, Gundagai Council or Tumut Council or whoever's around, we've got all this material that we need to get rid of. Do you want some of it to spread on your rural roads?
Yep.
So they've come and grabbed it and thought, great.
How good's this? Yeah.
And started spreading it on their rural roads, so they didn't have to quarry ridge gravel. They actually had a ready supply of this waste material.
Yep.
And then it came to light that the material contained low traces of naturally occurring asbestos.
Yep.
And then they had to go around all these rural roads and scrape the top X amount off that they'd laid and pick it all up and then go through a storage process for hazardous materials. So you can see how expensive this shit can get.
Oh, of course.
And I think I'm being sensible.
I don't oppose your position of it needs to be tested.
Yes.
I don't oppose your position of, ticking a few boxes in that area.
Yes.
But my fundamental position is they want to build a shed. Let's let them build a shed.
There's no problem with the shed.
The shed's
DA approved.
If you're talking about
we're talking about them trying to get.
We're talking about the material.
They've got all this gravel.
Let's use.
And they're assuming that gravel is clean and fluffy, and
they probably haven't even thought once about it. They're just going gravel. I'll have gravel. That'll solve that problem.
And I was a bit concerned by council's
blasé response.
Well, the idea that it'd be okay in this instance, but perhaps not in others.
Well, the hypocrisy of these organisations is standard.
The idea that that's a choice that a bureaucrat can make and not adherence to what the law says is concerning.
Well,
but I voted against that as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
1v8, I got beat. So I got beat on both.
Yeah, of course.
I got two black eyes. I got two eyes, two black eyes.
Yeah, no, look, I can dig it, and I appreciate it. Again, as much as I just sort of go, well, let's do whatever. I appreciate the fact that you've got concerns and you're willing to stand on the concerns and
look,
again,
if you're going to have rules, If you're going to have rules, everyone gets the same rule. That's my blanket position. And if the rule's wrong, change the rule for everyone.
Yeah.
This
idea, I'm all for changing the rules.
This idea that people can apply the rules very flexibly. No. This was what sort of really rubs me a bit with the the approach that the mayor sometimes brings to things. I don't know if you've heard him, but one of the words he likes to use so much about Temora Shire Council and about Temora Shire in particular, and about certain people is how special they are.
Special. Well,
they're so special. It's a special place full of special people.
Well, 20% of the Australian population is allegedly disabled, so there's a lot of special people.
No, this is different. These people are special.
And for the record, that's a government statistic.
These people are special. Now, once you become special, then you're setting yourself apart as being different. And then it's not a big stretch to say the rules might not apply to you in this instance because you're special. Those rules apply to the normies.
Do you remember a little little book called Animal Farm?
Yes.
You know, like all animals are equal, and then gradually it turns into some animals are more equal than others.
Yes.
We the pigs are more equal than the other animals above these animals who are well above these animals.
Yeah, and, like a dictionary. This is just a quick Google search. The adjective for special is better, greater, or otherwise different from what is usual. It must be in the water. I don't know.
How lucky are we?
Well, we're special.
I know. Look, I wake up and piss excellence. Let me tell you.
I don't know what the people in Cootamundra, Junee,
no, they are inferior.
West Wyalong,
inferior.
Coolaman.
All of our Junee, West Wyalong, Coolaman, Cootamundra fans and supporters, you're all inferior. According to I believe one of the phrases in the paper or Facebook, I can't remember, was one of our more respectable families. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And I mean, the family that he was talking to were great. I mean, I've got no dramas with them in the wide world. But the fact that you're deluded enough and you're so off your own rocker that you would go one of the more respectable families of this town. What does one need to do to qualify as a more respectable family? And respected by whom? Under what circumstance must you be respected?
There's a club.
I
think they've got a handshake.
I suspect so. Yeah. And, you know, any club that most of them are in, I couldn't give a rat's ass about being a part of. But what sort of deluded, absolute, pomposity would allow you to sit there publicly and go, this is a member of one of the more respectable families in town. I puked. Well, I absolutely vomited into my mouth when I saw that. I recall it. I actually made a Facebook group taking the piss out of it.
Lit up.
I made a Facebook group taking the piss out of it. Then I think I commented on it going, I think I was blocked not long after, of course, and banned and fuck all the like. But
I want to tell you just how special some of these people are.
Yeah, right.
This is copy in draft form of the Area Park and Springdale Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan.
Oh, goody. I love studies and plans.
Well, can you imagine what this thing cost? Like, it was in
this is the sort of bullshit that bureaucrats come up with to justify their existence.
Look, believe it or not.
Yeah, you like them more than I do. I'm happy to shut the whole lot down. And
if you've got the tech and you can measure things and you can plan accordingly, I think it's sensible as shit. But this is the point. When you look at the in-depth modeling, and I'm telling, this is in-depth.
Well, it's terribly in-depth.
This is all, like, you can see the way that the water flows through the catchment during a flooding event, right?
Yeah.
And they've modeled it and measured it. This is a massive document, and it's hyper expensive.
500 pages of it.
There's huge amounts of modeling gone into it, right? And this is just the Area Park and Springdale flood management study.
And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news.
Here's all of the technical.
Yeah.
Now, then I want to just tell you the context of this. This document then feeds into Temora Shire Council's development control plans and all of their planning instruments. So this material then guides council and says, well, because it's heavily flood affected, you've got to just tick a few boxes if you want to build there.
Oh.
So your floor heights have to be X, and other things have to be done to mitigate any as much as possible.
Whereas what it really should be is, if you want to build there, our recommendations is the following, because otherwise you're going to get flooded out. Now, if you don't want to build to those specifications, just be aware your insurance company is probably not going to insure you, and that's a risk you choose to take in your home on your land
Yeah, but
when
there's
you build something that.
such a thing as you never told me and it's your fault.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the sign up deal.
Yeah, no.
You just bought a block. Here it is. Here's the information, dummy. You didn't read it, too bad.
Yes.
The point is, if you don't meet certain specs, cool.
That's
you can choose not to do that.
That's okay, that approach, and I'm not going to argue the toss over that. But it's not how it is.
Oh, I know, and it makes me very sad.
Yes. This is
it hurts my heart, Anthony.
This is how it is. And this is the we've got all the hydraulic modeling of the design storm events. This is done with LiDAR, which is a fancy name for aerial measurements of the ground heights.
Now, I don't know if you noticed on the news recently, there was a bit of a weather event up north somewhere. Apparently some chairs were blown over, a couple of trees that rustled in the wind and there was a fair bit of water getting around. Some rivers got full, and there's been a little bit of flooding. Yeah. Now, in a little place called Lismore, and I feel for the people that go through this, and they go through it every few years. But their town's built on a floodplain. They know it's a floodplain.
It's an exceptionally good floodplain.
None of them are surprised that it's a floodplain.
I think
somehow, every time they get flooded, people get confused. Oh my God, they've been flooded.
They should all sell their houses and build a dam there and make
it'd be one of the best dams in the country.
And make hydroelectricity.
Like, as a cooperative. I feel bad for them as individuals, but I get it. And I go, hang on a minute. You know this is going to happen every 15 minutes. And it's going to happen forever. It's not climate change. You live in a fucking floodplain.
Yes. And we know how this happened because back in the day, before they had things like running water and all the rest of it, it was ideal to live on a river because you had consistent
access to water, for sure.
And your life was better and everything else.
Absolutely. But there's no way that anybody can be surprised when these things happen. When you live in these areas, that's what happens.
But back to how special we are.
Oh, yes.
All right.
I feel terribly special.
This is a copy of the draft report that went out on public exhibition August 2023. Right? So much work, so much effort. And then all
how much money?
Oh, it was a government, state government, I think, paid for this process.
So the ratepayers and taxpayers paid for it. How much does it cost the taxpayer ratepayers for this shit show for Area Park, which they would have modelled and copied in a million joints all around the countryside?
They're all individual. This is the interesting
That's what I'm saying, though. But each individual one of these would have cost X amount of bullshit taxpayer money in, Area Park, Barm Edmund, Cootamundra, Junui, Marama, and go forth and steal.
The only reason it got done was because we weren't paying for it.
Now, which we were, we just, as a council, we weren't. We always get very confused about what we actually do and don't pay for. There is no such thing as free. Free does not exist.
No, it was paid for anyway. It was extraordinarily expensive. The most.
That can be your homework. Find me a cost.
I'll find you a cost on that because it was just something that was.
Just because it'll be funny for the audience to watch my head explode.
No, and I'm just trying to Google it, and I can't find.
The pain I go through for you people, just every time I hear these things.
Here we are. This is from the 10th of April 2014. Griffith City Council says the initial cost of the flood study was almost 150,000.
The starting point's 150 grand. Initial cost.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
And on it goes. And you can imagine.
Oh, of course.
It's significant. However, it's expected to add 85,000 onto the study's cost, blah, blah, blah. So we're talking about studies that range, the starting price is probably of 100 grand up to X.
Yeah.
And significant technical documents that these decision makers will use as a blunt instrument.
Oh,
and
sure.
Insurance companies will get hold of and use as a blunt instrument.
Absolutely, they will.
And legislators and planners and all aspect of
Yeah, well, you've got the Gambinos, the Genovese,
Yes.
you've got the Bananas.
Yes, all aspects.
The Capone crime family. They're all in there. They're accessing it. They're using it to batter their neighbourhood into submission.
Now, picture this. Oh. This went on draft exhibition in August 2023.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe it was ratified in.
And I wouldn't mind betting 3 people that weren't affiliated with council would have looked at it. Nobody else gives
September, October, or November, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about this being adopted, and then it's been adopted and uploaded to the. There's a website that the SES run where all this information is available to
everybody. Yeah.
Like I say, insurance companies, government departments, the whole box and dice.
Yeah, yeah.
I drove into Area Park early 2024, and I'm talking January.
Hmm.
And I nearly crashed me ute.
Well, I don't recommend doing that. Well, I mean, unless you want to come buy another one, I'll sell you one. I'll find one for you.
Due to the shock, there was fair bit of shock. Because in progress were significant drainage works at the edge of Area Park taking place. Now, my understanding is, so here's a photo, and if you imagine the approach into Area Parks down here, so a lot of the overland flooding that occurs in Area Park comes from this direction up here, which is the southeast of town,
right?
And it flows across farmland and it hits the edge of town, and then it goes diagonally to the north and across town and out towards the cemetery and out to the Murrill Creek.
Right.
So this graded earthwork here appeared in January 2024.
Right.
And it's on, I believe it's on Councillor Nigel Judd's property.
Ah, okay.
Okay. Now, it's more significant when you move further into the town. This is an area where a big row of trees have been knocked out.
Yeah.
And then this drain has been reformed and the capacity's been improved. You know, look at that. Like, that's pretty significant when you can see that there. That's the pile of pine trees that they've taken out. Then they've cut into the land to form this drain.
Yep.
Like, it's significant.
Yep.
Look at the batter here, and
there's been some pretty big graders and things in there for sure.
Now that will have an impact on the behaviour of floods in Area Park. Let me put it in context for you, location-wise, so you can understand, and also you can see that area where there's no trees, and you can see on Google Earth there was a massive row of trees. So that's the Temora map. Area Park is over here. There it is. Okay, let's zoom in.
The mighty metropolis of Area Park.
There, look, it's all right. They go pretty hard out there. You can see if I take the zoom in, that area there, all this is that's that shed that was in that photo.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's that little lane that was all formed up. And that's that row of trees that are now piled up over here.
Yep.
And that great drain is cut in here. So when you come back into the context of Area Park, you've got this dam here. This flood water comes across in this direction, and that's borne out by the flood study. I'm not making this shit up.
Yeah.
That grader cuts along there, and then there must be some sort of a formed drain there, and then this has all been done.
Yeah.
Down here. That basically voids this.
Yeah, right.
And it was done in January 2024. This was adopted and ratified and accepted as true and correct in about November 2023.
Yeah, right.
Sorry for swearing, but I'm upset. And it hasn't been modelled in the flood study.
Yeah.
So Area Park's flood study is not correct.
It's been null and voided.
Yes. And that property, it's my understanding that that's Nigel Judd's property.
Well, Nigel wouldn't know what he wouldn't know anything about that. How would he have access?
Nigel Judd was on the committee. He was one of the representatives. Him and Council Oliver were on the flood committee.
I can't imagine for the life of me.
So Nigel Judd spent 4 or 5 years of his life on the flood committee. The minute that the flood study gets handed down, Nigel Judd does earthworks on his property that he doesn't model into the flood study. That do have an impact on the behaviour of overland flows in flooding events in the village of Area Park.
Yeah, right.
Now that means that everything that an insurance company says, everything that a government department models, every time someone says you can't build there because it's flood prone, it's no longer correct.
Yeah, right.
Now that's bullshit. And also, you know why it's bullshit? There was a suggestion in some of these meetings that some formalised flood mitigation in that area may have a beneficial impact.
Right.
However, it was noted in the literature that the landowner didn't want to give an easement. Because if you're going to spend money on, excuse me, it was all cramp, on significant.
That's old age kicking in. I get them all the time now that I'm just about bugged.
Doing a bit of work for a change. Not used to it. I think it was broached. Spend money on infrastructure, then you have to be able to get in and maintain said infrastructure.
Yep.
It's a bit like when you get an easement for a power line or anything else. So there was a community consultation, existing flood, blah, blah, blah. There is a part here where it actually mentions, and I can find that because it'd only be a quick word search.
Yeah.
To find the part where it actually, Councillor Judd actually wanted that part of it removed, and I was relatively impressed by the guy who developed the flood study. He said, "Well, that wouldn't be true then, would it?" And I said, "Well, good on you, lad.
Well done, son."
So he did soften the way it was put forward.
Yeah, they did that.
However, it's look, it's pointless me trying to find that passage directly now.
Yeah. When you get to it, that's fine.
Now that's another example of special. How special these people can be.
They do seem very special. They can do all sorts of things.
I just can't believe someone would be that entitled, short-sighted. That's my opinion.
Well, you're entitled to an opinion.
Well, we've just spent a shit ton of time and money putting together a flood study that we're going to rely on.
But the Griffith one's 150 grand, so I'm imagining a starting price.
Yeah, and I think that price was reached in like 2014. So by the time this got delivered in 2024, who knows what? And the same sort of work's been completed for Temora as well. And the same thing, the flood study then drives council decision making.
Yes,
it drives the planning department in the cities.
Yeah,
this is their ground truthing, because someone has come out and actually measured the shit.
Yeah.
They'd put it through. I took this serious to the point where when we had some significant rain events, I would get in my car and I would go to the locations and I would
see how accurate it was.
I would check the on the ground the flooding actions or the drainage actions, compared to what was modelled in their drawings, and I found them to be. I got great confidence in the process because they were, to my eye, quite accurate.
Yep.
You could look at the flood, the model, and you could go, okay, according to the model, if I drive 500 metres up this road, the water should be cutting across the road or be very close to.
Yep.
And you drive up, and sure enough, there'd be water had been across the road or was across. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got this highly useful, highly technical, really expensive process, and then it's almost as though the minute that you've got that, then you go and do something that you think's a great idea, and you completely blow
all of it,
all of that work into the weeds. If this had have been modelled and incorporated as like every time significant works are done in Temora Shire, they need to be applied and these models updated. Otherwise, they're pathetically worthless, and you can basically defend any position because something's changed out of the data that you're relying upon.
Yep.
Once you change the data, this is a worthless
document.
It's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
So, an insurance company's going to say, we're not going to insure you because of the flood study. You could probably, if you had Clive Palmer's bankroll, you could probably go to court and say, well, no, because this information's been corrupted. You're relying on corrupted information, so you can't possibly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that this situation just, it blows my mind how special some people think they are.
And done by somebody who certainly seems to be special enough to know better.
Well, certainly knows the process, and was sitting on the committee for the years and years it took.
Is not uninformed in the space, absolutely, you would imagine.
And also been involved in all of the toing and froing with stormwater detention basins in subdivisions in town, and all of the political football that was the situation where council tried to impose stormwater obligations from a developer onto an unconnected property.
Yep.
And the pushback from that property owner, and the subsequent, wailing and gnashing of teeth, and all of and then having to go back to the developer and say, oh, look, we might have overlooked this. You actually have to do the detention basin on your land.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like that would have been a shock to them.
Yeah.
That would have affected their budgeting. That would have affected the whole thing. We've got a situation where we've got subdivisions that have had one rule applied differently to other rules, and they've all occurred in recent time.
Yep.
And that, to me, is not good enough. It's a bit, you might call me cynical, you might call me a conspiracy theorist. Now, something really coincidental happened last month.
Right.
You'll recall the conversations about the reception centre at the function centre that was getting done at Coolum, and some toing and froing as to who was on the hook for tarring the road.
Yep.
And I think council at one point were trying to actually pin the tail on the developer, even though they had it in their forward estimates that they were going to tar that road.
Yeah.
And I think the developer said,
for sure,
yeah, well, I'll delay my development until you've tarred the road. And in the end, the council said, oh, that's a bit, we'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the road's been tarred. I've got confirmation that road's been tarred.
Well, that's lovely.
There's a development that, and this is from the February minutes. There was a development that a subdivision that council passed.
Pardon me. Yeah.
In February, out on the Junee Road.
Yep.
Currajong Street.
Yeah.
It's the street that you would have noticed it's had all the road works occurring over the last 3 or 4 months. They've basically built it up, and they're just at the point now of tarring it and finishing it off. Now, you'll be interested to know that the owner of the particular parcel of land is I&V McRae.
Oh.
Now, I&V McRae, now that's interesting, isn't it? I wonder if they're...
Not related to me, though. According to that document, they spell their name correctly.
Yes. Now, Ian McRae, believe it or not, as the owner of this property,
Right.
I understand it's the Ian McRae that was a mayor of Temora Shire.
Yeah, right.
I'm not exactly sure of the timeline. A bit remiss of me. I don't know all that history.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, in recent history,
Yeah.
and he was also one of the individuals granted in the last term of council. Mayor Furman insisted that it was one of his great pet projects that Councillor Judd, and he's an ex-mayor of Temora Shire Council,
Sure.
and Councillor McRae be recognised with freedom of the Shire.
Oh,
so they can do things.
that sounds serious.
That might be like cutting drains through things. I don't know.
Yeah, right. What is that? Is that a thing? Like, what the hell is freedom of the Shire?
Yes, well,
Sounds like something out of a J.J.J.R. Tolkien novel or
Yeah.
whatever. You know, like
yeah.
is there,
Sounds like special powers.
is there a hobbit holding a ring, or how does that work? I don't think I've never
It's
really
a
paid
little
that much
bit-
attention.
Well, I didn't pay too much attention at the time, and it's probably a bit rude of me, but
I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings or whatever.
no, I
it is,
paid
but-
attention to that.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I sort of know enough about it to kind of know that
Yeah.
some bloke with a funny name wrote it, and there was hobbits and orcs and all
Yeah,
sorts of other
special powers.
corrupted entities all running around getting very excited about bullshit. But
Now, it just strikes me as unique timing that council have just finished upgrading Currajong Street. And I'm not insinuating any wrongdoing here, but I am asking myself, this is the road they've upgraded.
yeah,
It's a gravel road. It's been a gravel road forever.
yeah.
These houses have been there forever. As long as I came to Temora in 2000 and those houses were there then.
Yeah.
That road was there then and it was gravel. This is a new subdivision down here, and this has got the extension of Currajong Street, and it is still gravel.
Yeah.
Right now, being on council and allocating resources to the areas of most identified need, I sit here and I go, why would you tar that?
Well, unless you were just doing that whole lot.
If you did all of that,
that'd kind of make sense.
That'd make some sense to me, because that would give these people in this estate, because that's the road that goes into the estate, right?
Yeah.
They could, if they want to go to Wagga, they can come here and they go out here onto the Jenny Road and off they go.
Yep.
If they want to come into town, they can go there and go into town, or they can go right through, cut straight through there. If they want to go and play a game of golf over here at the golf course, they can come around the corner and go straight up that road and go and play golf. How did that road get
a priority, Guernsey? Yeah, it does seem like a little unusual.
Yeah,
a little random, why
and there's no, like, I don't know how that, like, I know it gets prioritised at the planning meetings that people have, but how did that particular road get, like, look at Wattle Street at the other side of town. Now, it just got upgraded last year. Now, Wattle Street is another road that feeds into
the new subdivision.
That's Wattle Street
area, yeah.
Right? That's the Bundawarra Road. This large lot residential housing subdivision was established when I moved to Temora in 2000, because I remember people up there working and building homes, and the roads were laid out. And this was always just a gravel road. But in the 25 odd years that I've been here, this has been built out and it's heavily used by a lot of people. And that road has only just been tarred.
Yeah, right.
With all of that need and all of that traffic and a lot of use, that road's only just been tarred. But this road,
this obscure little road over
this
here,
obscure little road that goes basically nowhere, particularly when this subdivision here wasn't there, it did go nowhere.
Yeah.
It was just for the cocky to get in and access this block, or get in and access that block. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was late.
Yeah. This new subdivision takes into account that, and you can see on the plans that parcel of land there is that parcel of land there, and that is Currajong Street there.
Yep.
I'm a cynical person. I didn't used to be.
You didn't. I've been cynical for a long time.
You noticed that change in me.
I noticed it. Don't you worry.
I
noticed it. It's funny when you spend a lot of time with a lot of people and you see the various stages of. Oh, hang on a minute.
Awakening.
Hang on. What's the what? And
However, so now this subdivision's been approved. The road's in place. The developer doesn't have to make any contributions that I'm aware of because the road's been done by council.
Yeah,
they've got a brand new road into their subdivision.
That's lovely.
They're going to put internal roads.
Oh,
they'll build a road in here, which you
sure.
expect.
Yeah.
Because they're going to profit from the subdivision, but they've got a nice new road out the front here to make everything.
The entry point will be lovely, and
right. These people here have still got a dirt road down this side of their subdivision.
Yes.
And there's all this.
Does anybody important live in that subdivision? That's an important question.
Don't know.
Or are they from the?
I don't know.
Are they from the less respectable families?
I'd have to get the list out.
You have to go through the list and see whether they're in the more or less respectable families of Temora, or maybe that's where a heap of outlaws and troublemakers live.
Whilst we've got the maps out.
I know this is very, very useful having this mapping.
Whilst we've got the map out, we need to look at some declarations of interests, and all of the all the councillors and the senior staff of Temora Shire Council have to do a return of any interests that they hold.
All right, yeah.
Now, when we look at the general manager, for example, we can see on the general manager's website, on the Temora Shire Council website, this is the general manager's page with all the critical details: contact, mobile phone number, direct phone number,
with a gold tooth,
email, a bit of a list of the functions, and look, a declaration here of significant interests. Now let's just have a look at this document. And this is public access information. This isn't a secret. This is on the website. So now, lot 1137 Mansfield Road, Temora, is listed as real property owned by that individual. Lot 1137 Mansfield Road, Temora.
Yeah.
If we go to 6 Maps and we search for lot 1137 Mansfield Road, Temora, and hit enter on that, what's it come up with? That was Area Park there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's go back and we can do it another way, probably a little bit quicker. We can go over to the Temora map and I can find the lot in question. Where are we? Where's Temora? I've lost Temora. Quick, find it again. There it is. Yeah. Now, Mansfield Road. Where are we? There we are. Yes. Map contents. Let's put up lot labels. Okay, there it is. Look, 1137. Up it comes. Control ++. Right, see that lot there?
Sure do.
1137.
Yeah.
There's the DP number. This is Mansfield Road, Temora. Sure. So, we're not making this up. There's the road. It should give us a actual name on the road at some point in this naming. Anyway, you can take my word for it.
Well, you can check it out for yourself.
Or you can look at Google Maps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can see that says Mansfield Road.
Yes.
So that's lot 1137 Mansfield Road.
Yep.
And that's the one that's been listed by the general manager in their declarations of real property interest. There's another really handy resource, spatial viewer, New South Wales, and it actually shows you what the zoning of each particular parcel of land might be.
Yeah, right.
So I've got to agree to the general conditions, and that's okay. I've got no problem with that. This is a pretty handy resource because this used to be buried in paper PDFs that had been scanned and uploaded to the web, and
yeah, right.
it was a pretty onerous task. And knowledge is power.
Absolutely. Well, knowledge applied is power.
Well, I remember talking to one real estate.
Plenty of highly knowledgeable people who don't ever do anything.
I remember talking to one real estate agent in Temora who would ring the council up and say, "Can you tell me what the zoning of this particular lot is?"
Mm.
And the council would say,
"Who? For?
Who? Yes.
Yes. Who was the inquiry on behalf of?"
And the real estate agent would say, "None of your business."
Yes, nothing to do with you. Yeah, that's right.
Now that's a fair call.
Well, that's a corrupt call, not from the real estate agent, but from the council agent who wants to know who it is that's inquiring, because it's indicating that if it's a certain person, a special person, yes, perhaps, there may be a different zoning applicable. What it also indicates is if you are from maybe perhaps one of the less special or yes, less respectable families, the zoning may be less palatable for that individual. And I would like to think, as much as I detest most of these things, that if there is a zoning applied, it doesn't matter who is applying for said property. They should be treated fairly and equally.
Now, this will show the zoning of that lot that we just looked at, 1137.
Yeah.
RU1. Rural.
Right.
So that's residential.
Yep.
That's large lot residential. This is rural.
Yep. Not now, for long. They'll get that rezoned when the timing is right.
Well,
then it'll be subdivided and you'll sell 15 houses on a block.
There's the dams in question. This is the lot. 6 maps had the lot number, 1137. See, it's got those 2 dams, which indicate that's the lot 1137. Yeah. That's the one that's on the declaration.
Yeah.
That's
your sort of.
They're the dams. Yeah. That's the lot. That's Mansfield Road.
Yeah.
That is currently zoned rural.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what sort of primary production enterprise our general manager is actually planning, because you can see RU1 zoning is.
Of course, they have a long list of bullshit, don't they?
Oh, yeah, well,
Jesus.
RU1 is primary production.
Yeah, right.
Now,
they're a primary producer.
Yes, but I don't know what enterprise they're undertaking.
Sheep farming.
There's a shipping container and a caravan and a trampoline or something there that I can see.
Yeah, right.
And some grass.
Well, there you go.
But anyway, is it just a case of buying some cheap rural land,
holding it for a few years,
and waiting for it to be rezoned? When you're the general manager?
Well, a cynic may suspect that there is an element of that.
Well, I don't know, because I think it's a fair question. Have you bought this land for primary production? If so, what are you producing?
Yes.
If not, what are you doing with it?
Well, I have a second theory on that, and that's none of our business or anybody's business what it is.
No,
other than
you've got the power.
The rules can be manipulated from the other side of the game.
Other than you can, direct.
Yeah. You have an extra layer of advantage. It's a bit like the insider trading that we all know Nancy Pelosi has mastered. Well, and you've got all these politicians are becoming millionaires and trillionaires while they're on 180 grand a year.
Yeah, how many houses has Dutton got?
7 or 8.
No, I thought there was more. Oh,
it could be more than that. I don't know. The guy's a potato.
There was a heap. There was a heap on someone had got Peter Dutton's extensive
26 pieces of real estate.
Yeah, $30 million worth.
Half his luck.
That's all right for an ex-copper, isn't it?
For an ex-copper / politician, public servant.
No.
You know, oh, but I've diligently saved.
They said he's one of the country's wealthiest. Blank, blank, blank. Fill in the gaps. One of the country's wealthiest what? This will be a subscription only.
For $7.20. Who wants to pay $7.20 to read that bullshit? Mate, seriously.
Anyway, now there's absolutely no imputation that there's been anything corrupt go on.
No.
There's absolutely no imputation here. It's just notable.
It's worth noting, and the public should be aware that these things.
It's just notable that road that tends to have very limited
use and benefit to anybody
prior to this DA.
Yep.
And then you've got the other matter of the general manager's bought a block of rural land.
Yeah.
Allocated for primary production.
Yes.
I'm
sure there's a million of them. If we went through every single one of them, we'd be able to go, hang on. And again, it's more to do with the insider trading vibe from my perspective than it is, as far as I'm concerned, she buy whatever she wants. I could care less. But the fact that she's privy to information, or many of these individuals are privy to information that the average punters aren't, it's a decided advantage in free market manipulation. Potentially,
that's right. And who would want to go and tempt people?
Is there any? Yes.
Yeah, you're really asking for trouble, because we all know that most people are quite strong and forthright and will stick to their obligations. But there are some people here and there are weak, and they will take a shortcut.
Absolutely.
And that's and it's a bit unfair of the system to put those opportunities in front of these people who might be weak-willed.
Sadly, I have very little faith in the system, hence why I'm sitting in this chair here with you. But
anyway, so they're not conspiracy theories; they're just facts.
Little bits of information that just happen to be true. But in saying that, we are sitting at an hour and nearly 40 minutes.
Well, for anyone who's stuck it out, well done.
Congratulations, absolutely. We do appreciate all of our feedback. We appreciate all the views. We appreciate all the chatter. Good and bad feedback. I'll take it all, whatever. But once again, we'll be back next Thursday night, same time, 7:30 here, doing another Spin Doctors. Do the whole like, share, subscribe thing. That's cool. And next week, we'll be back with...
And if anyone's got any questions, and if they want hard answers, like, just before we go.
Okay.
And you've said this a number of times. Give me council's financial figures.
Ooh.
Now, this is a two-part
document.
It's the annual report from 23-24.
So this is going to be my homework. I'm going to have a read of some of this.
Well, the annual financial statements. But what you'll find...
Fluff and bullshit as opposed to hard numbers?
Well, it doesn't drill into... I've highlighted a piece of the financial statements that I think you'll find, it's in the annual report, that I think you'll find bears out the difficulty in finding out the
hard information. Facts. Yeah. So vague bullshit.
So in this fairly glossy and extensive document,
very important. It's glossy.
100 odd pages, 108. In the elected representative and management section, there's a salaries of senior staff on page 95.
Yeah, right.
Now, just to help you out.
Dylan Edwards in there, is it? That's Dylan. Oh, there you go.
It is too. And
I've
worked with him in
all those people who are making fame by landing in the council reports. Yeah, right.
I've worked with...
Surely there's photos of you and I in there somewhere.
Just let me remember who that... if I stop thinking about it, I remember his name. That's rude.
Yeah, you're very rude.
Yeah.
Outraged. I'm outraged.
Just cast your eye over that and read
Salaries of senior staff.
Stuart James. See, as soon as I stop thinking about it, my mind works. Stuart James is the
other fellow in the party. Yeah, right. There
inside
you go.
front cover.
Stuart, you're famous, mate.
He is.
In the 2023-24 year, council employed senior staff. General manager salary component, number 1, total remuneration, $239,582. Not a bad wicket to be on.
Mhm.
It's more than an MP, more than a state MP.
That's what I was telling you before about the difference
Yeah,
between bureaucrats and elected
representatives. That's right. Superannuation, including employer contribution and salary sacrifice, $26,348. Non-cash benefits. What counts as a non-cash benefit?
Things like any fringe benefits, such as perhaps a motor vehicle, use of a motor vehicle, stuff like that.
So $32,546. And fringe benefits tax payable.
Yeah, right. Yep.
$10,528. Note, 2 other employees act in a senior capacity. However, due to the remuneration requirement of the senior staff classification, they are not technically classified as senior staff. Okay. So how much are they being paid?
Well, that's it. You've got 2 choices there. You can say, so in the interest of transparency, this is what they earn.
Yes.
Even though they're technically this classification. So can you actually read what that says? It says 2 other employees act in a senior capacity. However, due to the remuneration requirement of the senior staff classification, they're not technically classified as senior staff, but they act in a senior capacity.
And you're acknowledging it. Tell us how much money
for
you're
all
paying
other intents and purposes, they're senior staff. They're actually mentioned in the
salaries of
senior staff section. So it would just
less how much money we're throwing at them.
It would be easy just to say, so just for transparency's sake, this is what they get.
Yes, you would think so.
And particularly when these 2 other employees, to my mind, are the directors. So the senior management of council is made up by the general manager and 2 directors.
Yep.
These 2 people are directors of council.
Yeah.
I think it would be transparent to disclose the salaries of the directors of council.
I wouldn't see a problem with that.
Now, just some rough add-ups, because we've always heard the package is about 300.
Yeah.
So we've got 240 and a half.
Yeah.
240 ballpark, plus 26, so 266. Plus 32, so what's that? Take it up to 290.
290 thereabouts.
And 10.
Yeah.
So 298, 308.
Yeah.
So it's actually
pretty close to that 300K.
Solidly.
It's a solid package.
Solidly over 300.
Yeah.
So good luck gleaning anything meaningful out of these figures when statements such as what I've just read you are commonplace in the figures.
We're going to have some fun playing with this one. This will be very enjoyable.
And that's public access information. There is nothing there that's a secret.
I'll make sure it's not a secret.
And look, if you do have specific questions, write them out on a sensible document and give them to the general manager. And I'm sure
you'll get no answers as well.
No. I'm sure you'll get the questions answered, provided they're just put clearly and concisely and politely. And that they're accompanied with a GIPA Act request. No, that's if they don't give you what you're legally entitled to. Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. And we'll see you all again on Thursday night.